1 day and a year after the revocation of its special status, then a state now split into two territories of the Union. One governor and two lieutenant governors later, another BJP Sarpanch kill. What has changed in this conflict-ridden land? The politics and facts of life in Centre's New Kashmir.
Hello and welcome to this News Unlock special. Remember, you're watching a show that takes you behind the headlines to the stories that matter, the stories that need to be showcased on prime time. Today is exactly a year and a day after the abrogation of Article 370, a decision taken by the Narendra Modi government that reduced the state of Jammu and Kashmir to a union territory. How has it worked out? Has Article 370 been the game changer that the Modi government promised, or has it failed to deliver? Remember, today also, in a move that came as a surprise to many, senior BJP leader and former Union Minister Manoj Sinha was appointed as the new Lieutenant Governor of the Union Territory. This after the first Lieutenant Governor of J&K, GC Murmu, submitted his resignation last evening. What does this mean? 1 year on, is Jammu and Kashmir as a Union Territory in a better shape than it was or not? Shujaul Haq brings you the latest first on the change at the top, from bureaucrat to politician.
Exactly a year after the abrogation of Article 370 came another surprise for the people of Jammu and Kashmir. In an unexpected move, the first Lieutenant Governor of the year-old Union Territory, GC Murmu, resigned. According to sources, there was no indication or talks around it till late last afternoon, and it was only later in the evening that a few scheduled meetings were suddenly cancelled.
Unceremoniously, the present governor, Shri Murmu, has been given marching orders. Unceremoniously. It was not in the air. Nobody expected it. However, it points to the fact that the situation in J&K has gone from bad to worse.
It is being speculated that GC Murmu's comments on restoration of 4G in Jammu and Kashmir, and that he's not afraid of how people of Kashmir will use the internet, could be one of the reasons for him falling out of favor.
This overnight change of guard at the Jammu and Kashmir Raj Bhavan is, I think, not one of those routine transfers that you have at the Raj Bhavans. We can see that the kind of bureaucracy, the kind of system that Mr. Murmu was presiding over last few months looked unsustainable to go beyond a point. So it's not a place cut out for bureaucrats to run. It's a very complicated, very complex and very sensitive place.
Following the resignation, speculations was also rife as to who would take over. And on Thursday morning, the press communique from Rashtrapati Bhavan gave out the name of the new appointee. Former Union Minister and BJP leader Manoj Sinha will take over as the second Lieutenant Governor of Jammu and Kashmir. Sources revealed that even Manoj Sinha learnt of his appointment last evening at around 6:30 p.m. when he got a call from Prime Minister Modi's residence.
What's interesting to note, what's surprising, and what's something to be watched over next few weeks is Mr. Manoj Sinha. He is a veteran, an active politician. I see in Mr. Sinha's appointment as Lieutenant Governor of Jammu and Kashmir a prelude to some more important political developments and political outreach from Delhi to Jammu and Kashmir in next couple of weeks.
The first and biggest challenge the new Lieutenant Governor is likely to face is the preparation of ground for elections in the Union Territory, a process that is long overdue.
While a lot of people are saying that the move comes because there was perhaps a need of someone who knew politics to take the charge at this point of time, many are also pointing at the fact that all was not really going down well when it comes to the administration of Jammu and Kashmir for last 1 year. Overall, it does look like the fact that major changes could be taking place with the new governor coming in and taking charge of the top posts in Jammu and Kashmir. With cameraman Tariq Shujaul Haq, Insanagar for India Today.
Now remember, this change at the top comes at a time when BJP sarpanches are being targeted in the Kashmir Valley. A BJP sarpanch Sajjad Ahmed Khande was the latest this week to be killed by suspected terrorists in South Kashmir's Kulgam district. This happened this morning. Khande was fired upon near his residence at Vesu in Kazigund. In Kazigund, the BJP sarpanch was staying in a secured migrant camp along with several other sarpanches. Remember, the appointment of sarpanches and attempting to hold panchayat elections was being projected as a major achievement. This is the second attack on a J&K BJP leader in less than 48 hours. Panchayat member Arif was also targeted. Arif Ahmed was critically wounded after terrorists fired upon him, also in Kazigund on the evening of 4th of August. He's currently undergoing treatment. So you've got a series of J&K sarpanches, all belonging to the BJP, who become soft targets for terror. Which brings me to the question of governance. Remember, this has been projected as the Modi government's big achievement by its supporters, the abrogation of Article 370. But we try to gauge what has really changed on the ground in the two union territories of Jammu and Kashmir and Ladakh. In fact, what has changed in the three regions, Jammu, Kashmir Valley and Ladakh? Take a look.
After the abrogation of Article 370, it was not just a matter of the state's flag being taken down and establishing the paramountcy of the Indian tricolour, but it was also about a shift in administration. The governance of the erstwhile state of Jammu and Kashmir has shifted to being administered by bureaucrats in the absence of political presence.
Actually, post scrapping of 370, we are all in some kind of a daze, like, we're unable to react to a lot of things. So these small things like election, bureaucracy, administration, I find them extremely redundant and irrelevant. Because the larger question of our identity is an elephant in the room that not many people are willing to talk about.
2 days after Article 370 was abrogated, Prime Minister Modi spoke of a prospective future for the two newly carved union territories. He spoke of business opportunities for the youth, government jobs and tourism boost for all three regions.
जब वहां डिजिटल कम्युनिकेशन को ताकत मिलेगी, जब वहां बीपीओ सेंटर, कॉमन सर्विस सेंटर बढ़ेंगे, जितना ज्यादा टेक्नोलॉजी का विस्तार होगा, उतना ही जम्मू कश्मीर के हमारे भाई बहनों का जीवन आसान होगा.
The domicile law is what the Valmiki community in Jammu says they have been waiting to hear for a long time. They claim that despite having been Jammu residents for 6 decades, they were still considered outsiders.
और जो नए डोमिसाइल से अभी क्या है, जो हमारे बच्चे ग्रेजुएट, पोस्ट ग्रेजुएट और अंडर ग्रेजुएट थे, अब उनको सीधा उनके लिए जो डिपार्टमेंट्स के दरवाजे थे वो खुल चुके हैं. अब हमारे बच्चे अपनी योग्यता के अनुसार नौकरियां पा सकते हैं.
While in Jammu, the Tehsildar's office is witnessing queues every day, with people lining up to file for domicile certificates. In Srinagar, most Kashmiris seem unhappy with this new law.
Punjabis take great pride in being Punjabis. People from Haryana take great pride in being Haryanvis, and similarly, we had a certain set of identifications, certain, sentiment attached with being Kashmiris. This whole game of Article 370 scrapping and introducing of the domicile law was to make that identity irrelevant. So as a Kashmiri, not just do I feel threatened by the new domicile law, but I also feel extremely disappointed that our identity is not respected.
The past 1 year has been very difficult for Kashmiri people. Lockdowns followed by restriction after abrogation of Article 370, which has led to a political vacuum. This has also meant that bureaucracy has the real power. But in Kashmir, many people say they remain largely inaccessible. With camera person Vinod, this is Kamaljeet Sandhu in Srinagar for India Today.
Let's get in some voices from both Jammu and the Kashmir Valley today. Anuradha Bhasin is a senior journalist and the editor of Kashmir Times. She joins me from Jammu. Sheikh Qayyum is senior journalist based in Srinagar. Anuradha, let me come to you because, you know, in a way, a year obviously is a long time in the Kashmir Valley and in Jammu. What, to your mind, has changed on the ground? Has anything changed significantly?
I mean, let me begin with the few families of the Valmiki community that you just showcased. These are very few families. Of course, there were concerns about them. They've been living here for the last 60 years. They were brought from Punjab on the assurance of being settled, and that had never been done. And these are just, there were about 200-300 families that came at that time, and they're not very big in number, not even more than 2,000. The other number is somewhere between 1 lakh and 1.5 lakh of West Pakistan refugees. They have been living here for 70 years. So these two categories at least could have been decided on humanitarian grounds, but you didn't need to demolish the entire structure to actually give them their rights. Other than that, what has changed is that even in, let's not talk about, I'm not talking about Kashmir right now, but I'm talking about Jammu, I'm talking about Ladakh, which began on a celebratory note, howsoever muted it was, on August 5th, 2019. 1 year on, what is it that has changed, that despair has sunk in? There is a lot of frustration sinking in, particularly among the youth who feel that they may lose their right to job, their land. Business people are worried because recently, you know, you had these mining contracts, the only sign of development, and that in that kind of a development project, they seem to have had no share. Other than that, I mean, it's not just about share, because it's businessmen from outside who have much more money power, investing money in tenders that were 5 to 9 times higher than the usual. Obviously, they're going to extract their pound of flesh. That will have an ecological fallout. There are concerns locally here. That will also hike up the cost of the raw material, impacting the local consumers. So there are worries on a number of fronts.
You mentioned the economic front, and I think that's an important element, because I look at some of the numbers, especially in COVID times, and the economy clearly has crippled. Job loss in Jammu and Kashmir, around 5 lakh people lost their jobs since August 5th. More than 40,000 crores is estimated at the economic loss. Now, this could be across the country, but in the context of Kashmir, it becomes even more significant. Sheikh Qayyum, what is the biggest change you've seen in the Kashmir Valley? If it is job loss and a sense of frustration and despair, even in Jammu, what is the biggest change you've seen in Kashmir Valley in the last 1 year?
I think the biggest change that I see is that the Kashmiri is disappointed. He is not disappointed. Kashmir is not all about development and progress and mining tenders. Kashmir's bond with the rest of the country is a very sentimental, emotional, secular bond. Mind you, Rajdeep, this is the only Muslim majority state which said no to two-nation theory. And we have been believed all along that we are the darling of the Indian secularism. And suddenly, Rajdeep, like the darling son of the family, we are told to stand at the back of the line. Emotionally, Kashmir is not happy about it. He has been jolted. Economic losses we have been taking for the last 37 years. Kashmir, whatever you may say, economy has not been taking off well. Tourism has not been taking off well. You have had so many hartals, so many closures, whether called by the separatists or enforced by the government. So Kashmir is not all about...
No, you're saying the emotional loss of the downsizing of a state to the union territory is the biggest change. But the government of India in turn says, look, separatists have been marginalized. Terror activities, according to the government of India, are coming down, even if infiltrations are increasing. How do you respond to that?
Rajdeep, do you think every Kashmiri is a separatist? Then I am sorry.
No, I'm
we
telling
don't
you what the government's achievements they claim are separatists have been marginalized. Number of terror incidents have come down. There is a relative peace according to the government in the valley.
I do not deny a relative peace, but you have said it. When you say a relative peace, you have said it already what a relative peace is all about. The common Kashmiri is saying, my first right as a special citizen, 370 was taken away. And then the insult to injury was the downgrading of the state. I think this happened for the first time in India's history, that a state is downgraded from a state to a union territory. So okay, definitely hurt, and don't tell me that it's all about development. That you will.
So you're saying it's much more you're saying it's an emotional loss that the people feel, that they have been denied, according to you, the rights that they feel other parts of the country are getting. One of them is internet freedom. And I know that Anuradha Bhasin, you went to court on this issue, that the fact was that at the end of the day, the people of Jammu and Kashmir for the longest time have, and they continue to be denied, internet freedoms that are seen as routine in other parts of the country. Do you believe that that's a sense of loss, the sense that people feel both in the valley and Jammu, that we live in a part of the country which doesn't get the rights that other parts of the country take for granted?
Rajdip, I will explain to this.
Let Anuradha respond and I'll come to you. Yes.
You know, one of the main premises of the changes that were made last year was that you need to create a class of equality within India. It went against the asymmetric federalism, of which Kashmir was one of the major examples. And to create that class of equality, what you've done is you've integrated the territory, but you've forgotten the people who live here and denied them equal rights. I mean, fundamental rights like the access to internet is only one of them. Look at how civil liberties have broken down. On the smallest of pretexts, a curfew-like situation is imposed here. Now, these days, it's become easier. You know, you can use COVID as a pretext, even though the COVID cases in Jammu and Kashmir are 1 or 2% of the national average. So why is it that while rest of the country is opening, you know, every every weekend now we have a lockdown here? What is so special about Jammu and Kashmir? Are the people not an integral part of the country? And that is something that is worrying them. Other than the fact that it's also humiliating that, as Sheikh Yum said, that, you know, that the state has been downgraded.
I take your point. I just want to say there are lockdowns in other parts of the country as well. You know, other parts of the country also have weekend lockdowns. But I take your point that there is a sense that Jammu and Kashmir feels it's being treated differently. But Sheikh Qayyum, you know, the government will say, look,
I'd also like to say, Rajdeep,
yes.
I'd also like to add to this whole thing about narrative about terrorism that is being peddled. You know, the government has been quoting numbers like, say, 130 militants that have been killed in 2020, the first 6 months. It's very difficult to assess whether terrorism has come down only on basis of the number of militants who've been killed. Look at the kind of lockdown that has been imposed. Look at the kind of militarization that there is. And despite that, 200 militants are still operating. Young men are ready to pick up the gun. Many of those who were killed were those who'd recently picked up the gun. So these are very worrying signs. And even security experts, security officials are worried about how this will pan out internally. The civilian killings are on rise. I mean, we didn't see civilian killings in recent years by militants. Also, infiltrations are on the rise. The border situation is worsening. So these are very serious concerns.
Okay, I take your point. And I think that's why, you know, this is a moment for introspection, perhaps more than anything else in the valley a year on. I have to stop this because I have to move on to a story that I've got. And I wish we could have more time on that, but let's play a story about the young of Kashmir. Remember, for the young generation, and it's been more than one generation, there has been a sense of loss. The abrogation of Article 370 did bring hope among some that there would be more employment opportunities, there would be more investments. But a year later, perhaps it's the young who find themselves truly at the crossroads. Schools and colleges remain shut. Lockdowns continue. For entrepreneurs, it's a bleak period. Let's take a look at the young dreams and demands and how they are not being met in a new Kashmir.
The decision to revoke Article 370 was showcased as a means to wholly integrate the erstwhile state with the rest of India, a move that would improve business in the region. But the two lockdowns in the valley hit local businesses hard. Losses are estimated to run into thousands of crores of rupees, and the young generation of the region is the one at the receiving end.
The world is seeing the lockdown like for the past 3-4 months, but we Kashmiris have been suffering. Our business is suffering since August.
I invested in this cafe that I'm running right now only in May 2019, and I only saw two months of business.
First generation entrepreneurs Anam and Nusaiba had to figure out ways to run their businesses amid a stringent security clampdown, a pandemic and internet rationing.
I myself am a Kashmiri youth. I don't think we hold any kind of future in Kashmir. There is no future for Kashmiri generation, for Kashmiri youth in Kashmir, because we are being, confined to our homes, to our rooms, and we don't have a freedom of expression. We can't express anything. Even if we try to write something, we just live in a fear that, how is it going to be, how they are going to take this, whatever we write.
While the world has moved to online education, people in this region are left reloading web pages.
पढ़ाई ऑनलाइन ठीक लग रही है?
No. पिछले 2-3 सालों से बस 2G चल रहा है, 4G भी बंद है, कुछ है ही नहीं यहाँ पे। पढ़ाई में बहुत प्रॉब्लम होती है, ना समझ आता है ना कुछ।
Young people demand better facilities and most importantly a steady internet and employment.
मैंने MA BEd किया है, बैठी हूँ घर में। ड्यूरिंग अनएम्प्लॉयमेंट की वजह से फॉर्म बहुत भरे थे, करप्शन की वजह से लगने वाले तो पहले ही लग चुके होते हैं।
दुनिया हुस्न पे वो हुस्न आम हो गया, भरे बाजार में बदनाम सरेआम हो गया। हवा की बेटी तू पर्दादारी बाद तेरी प्यार के नाम पे वो जिस्म नीलाम हो गया। ना नियत निकाह की जिना गुना हो गया, हरकतें तेरी नीच थी तू कैसा बीज बो गया।
21-year-old Javed couldn't finish his studies, but he turned to rap and writes on issues around him.
मैं रैप पे सोशली एक्ट करता हूँ, मतलब रोजमर्रा की जो चीजें हो रही है, लाइक #NoRap, #वुमेन सेफ्टी के बारे में।
Javed and his band members live in Baramulla, away from the hustle and bustle of Srinagar. But Javed is hopeful that opportunities for artists will come to this region too, and soon.
For last 1 year, a lot of things have changed for the people of Jammu and Kashmir, particularly the youngsters. While the move was a shocker, but what followed after that was also a challenging time. Many here in the valley, however, say that Kashmiris have seen challenges for last many decades, and still the hope has continued to exist. And that's something that still continues to happen.
Let me leave you therefore today with our image of the day, because the fact is that the abrogation of Jammu and Kashmir a year ago has changed the political administrative status, but also in a sense altered the identity of Kashmiris. As I said, the youth perhaps the most affected. I leave you with this song penned by young Kashmiri artists, written just a week after Article 370 was revoked, their lives placed under a new form of a blockade. Listen in. Good night, goodbye.
वो कहाँ जानते मैं कहाँ, वो यहाँ न आ सके मेरे पास, कैसे खो
Hi everyone, Preeti Chaudhary here. Hope you like this video. For latest news and analysis, Like and subscribe to the India Today YouTube channel and don't forget to press the bell icon to stay updated. Thank you for watching.